Hello and welcome back to the Crystal Vision podcast. I am your host, Olivia Clare, and today on the show we have content marketing queen Mariah McInnes. Mariah is so generous and shares not only her time but her insight with us on the show today. She divulges the 5 core marketing pillars you need to move people through your content, how to know which content channel is right for you, and the importance of using storytelling to sell. Make sure to share this episode with your fellow content queens and rate and review so that we can reach more people. Enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to the Crystal Vision podcast, where we dive deep into the strategies and energetics of business, money, and mindset mastery so as to create the next generation of wildly wealthy women. My name is Olivia Clare and I'm a serial entrepreneur who is obsessed with giving you all of the tools that you need to create your crystal clear vision of success. Each week you will hone in on your unique zone of genius and embody the highest version of yourself to reverse engineer your way to your dream life. If you're ready to let go of the hustle and effortlessly call in more money, more growth, and more fulfillment, stay tuned. Hi, Mariah. Welcome to the Crystal Vision podcast. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much, Olivia, for having me. I'm great. As we record this, I'm currently in Morocco sweating. I'm sure you're probably the opposite. I can see you with your turtleneck.
Yep, I got my turtleneck and my jumper on. It's still winter here. We had a few weeks of abnormally warm weather. It was like 25 degrees and sunny. I thought it's spring here already, but I think it's probably like 17, 18 degrees now. That calls for a turtleneck, in my opinion.
I do miss cold clothes. Cold clothes, to be fair.
So you are the content marketing queen, Mariah, the content marketing queen. I love it. We really can see that content is king at the moment. Like it feels like content is taking over. I don't want to use this image, but it almost feels like it's being shoved down our throats. Like you can't walk anywhere with like content. So I want to ask you, do you think that content is king when it comes to marketing?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I went on a hike in 2020 with a housemate. She does nothing with content marketing. She is like a science health person. And we were like enjoying Wilson's Promontory, which is a beautiful part of Victoria in Australia. And she turns to me and she says, life is content. And I'm like, yes, it is, Jenna. Life is content. And obviously I was starting my business at the time. And we are seeing that businesses now are using content marketing as a really core marketing strategy. Why is this? Well, it is very cheap. You know, if you are your own content creator, you're not outsourcing anything. Business owners become turned content creators, then it is a really cheap and effective way to start. But with this, it shouldn't be the only strategy. And this is what we are seeing. Like, obviously, I specialize in content marketing, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you content marketing is the only thing you need in your business because that is an absolute lie. And every business is so different. You know, there are businesses that are content marketing is more for brand awareness, whereas they get a lot of their clients because they're really high ticket, you know, big package clients. Like I have a client in the event space. Someone like, might see her social media and be like, oh, amazing. Yes, I've been meaning to hire for ages, or, you know, connect with her at an event. And then she nurtures them through social media or email marketing. But some people, their big clients come through so many different avenues. I mean, my retainer clients do not come from social media that often. I mean, I do get some, but it's because I don't market it on there. It's not what I use it for. I'll get a lot of clients through networking. So whilst, yes, it's huge, I think it's important to remember we should be looking at a holistic view. You know, do we have paid marketing? Is paid marketing good for us? You know, PR and visibility. Like there's so many other things, but content allows us to continue to nurture that audience once we get them on our email list, once we see them at a networking event. You know, there's these things that content marketing can help with, but I think any business owner should not be looking at content marketing and be like, okay, I'm done. That's it. And that's why we need to have a process, strategies, things in place so we can grow. Because if you're just focusing on content marketing and you're that person that's posting at 5 p.m. every day and you're writing a caption on the fly, you're probably filming a reel as it is about to go out, there's no strategy, there's no structure, then you're going to only have space for content marketing. So eventually that's going to dry out, or you're going to get sick of it, you're going to burn out. There's so many things that come into play. So it is definitely queen or king of the marketing space. But smart business owners will recognize that it isn't the only strategy for their business.
This is so powerful. I just want to take what you said and like scream it from the rooftops, because I completely agree. And I love that even as the content marketing queen, you can recognize that each business is different, and content marketing forms part of an overall marketing strategy, which forms part of an overall business strategy too. And I feel like that's something that I've seen more and more, like, because we see bigger podcasts or bigger, just any sort of, coaches, whatever we want to call it, putting out 10 TikToks a day. We think, okay, well, that's the way that I will grow to be that business. And I always say to people that I work with, forget the reels, forget the TikToks, even forget social media for a second, and just start with getting clients and then use content or see how it fits into your business later. I feel like content marketing can, again, it depends on what type of business you have. If you want to be an influencer, obviously you're going to want to do content marketing, right? But if you, exactly like you said, have a high ticket service, or, even if you're in the services industry altogether, you're probably going to get your clients from referrals, from networking events. So posting that, like, no one's going to click on an Instagram all the time, an Instagram post, and then sign up to a $10,000 product. Like, it doesn't happen every day. So we need to just remember this and think about, like getting our clients first and then using content marketing to nurture them. So I'm so glad you said that. As you can tell, I've been on the same page for ages. And I feel like because we do see so much content marketing, people can make the assumption that that's the way to go straight up when they're first starting out.
Yeah. And if you post 10 TikToks a day, I mean, talking about reels is interesting, but I've seen social media marketers say, like, I grew 10,000 followers in 12 months because I posted 2 reels a day. I did this, I do that. Amazing. And that's amazing for a social media marketer, because that's their point, right? They need to practice what they preach. But we don't all need to practice what we preach and post multiple times a day, because it's not sustainable for us. And I love what you say, like, get the clients first. I worked on Fiverr before I even started social media. So before I started social media, I had clients. And generally that's what happens. Like, validate your offer as well before you go out and like share it with people, because you have no validation of like it works. You know what I mean? Like, validate that that's what people need. Like, there's so many business and branding foundations that business owners just completely skip when they start a business, because they're like, okay, I've got my social media handle, let's go, which is awesome. Like, I'm super for being proactive, but if you don't have the time to get clients and create content, like, I know what you should be choosing.
1,000,000%.
Exactly. And like, when I create a strategy for a business, usually it's for a solo entrepreneur, so they're doing it themselves. I'm not going to tell them post every day. Hell no. Like, that's just not sustainable for them. Like, so we work out a strategy that works best for them. Most of the time it incorporates a long form channel, like a podcast or a blog or some kind of YouTube, because if you have that, you have content for social media. And to be fair, social media is a borrowed channel. We don't own it. So the content that you create on there and that you're pouring everything into every day is not yours. And it can be taken away from you in a second. Like, that's what's hard, right? I have a podcast, a blog, you have a podcast. I imagine you've got blog content or some written content online. That's what you have, an email list. Like, that's what you own. And like, that's what we should focus on as well. And I'm not saying everyone has to start a podcast or a blog as soon as they end this episode. It's just like, this is where sustainability comes in, because it's not sustainable to post that much on social media. Those social media managers, like, that's what they do for work. Nothing pains me more when like reels, people that sell reels courses tell you how to use a trending sound or anything. And of course they go viral because they're talking about reels.
Yeah.
And people go to reels to learn about reels. You know what I mean? Like,
it feels like
so hard
Ponzi scheme. Like, it feels like an MLM whenever I see that. I'm like, but you made the money selling this random product. Like, it really gets to me.
People don't get the results. Like, people don't get the results. And this is where like gurus do become a little bit more MLM. And I can see gurus, and I say gurus, like, I think people are calling them out a lot more, but gurus are telling you what you should be doing and not actually knowing the business. Oh, well, I had this success, so you should do it this way. And this is where formulas just do not resonate with me. I have formulas in terms of like storytelling formulas. So you plug in like, to help you craft a story. I have frameworks. This is the strategy framework that I use. It's not a formula. If you follow it, it's not something you follow like a recipe and you get the same result as me, because anyway, recipes, we get different results anyway. Like how my mum would cook a chocolate cake would be totally different to how I would cook a chocolate cake, even if we had the same recipe. So I think a lot of people get stuck on this secret formula that just does not work.
Or exists.
And I think we're starting to see it now. I think we're starting to finally see like, I'm burning out on social media and I'm getting no effort for the amount of, and like I'm getting nothing for the amount of effort I'm putting in. So I need something else. I need to do something else. And this is what does worry me, because everyone holds content marketing to this like holy grail, and it is amazing. And I love it. And it's been able to connect me with so many people, like in more ways than one, not just from business. I've been creating content since like 2014, but I worry that we hold it to such, it's like the expectation that we have. Like all I need to do is post on social media and I will make millions. And unfortunately, it's not the case.
Yes. And I think that is an important thing that people need to recognize, or is that vanity metrics is such a thing. Like just because you gain 10,000 followers in 10 weeks from posting 10 times a day, whatever it is, how many of those are buyers? Like how many of those actually make you money? How many of those spend? And a lot of the time we can build an audience. We see so many, I think it's one of the people that I follow in the space, an industry leader, always says, you have these people with millions of followers on Instagram that can't sell t-shirts because they have, you know, an audience, people who want to look at their stuff, but not people that are connecting with any sort of offer that they're putting out. I always find it so interesting when you have those multi-million dollar businesses that have, you know, 10,000 or less followers on Instagram. And I think that to me feels so much better, probably because it is more sustainable than, okay, I'm posting, you know, every single day at this time and spending an hour making sure that my reel looks good and my caption is good, and I'm getting nothing from it. Like, no wonder it's frustrating so many people, because it doesn't work.
Oh, 100%. And I, you know, like obviously we can make the assumption the more people we have at the top of the funnel, the more people we can funnel down, right? Like it, of course, like, but who are those people at the top of your funnel? And, you know, when like I had a reel that reached like 300 and something thousand in 2021, and it was about my health journey. So of course I had people that were going to follow me that had nothing to do with my business. That's why I separated Content Queen from my own brand and started a new channel. But the thing is, like, you have all these likes, but if you actually go down to it, it's probably like a bot, or it could be like, you know, on TikTok, it's like username 7345, whatever. So yeah, like obviously we, you know, I know there are marketers out there who will say like, you do want fans, followers is just a number, and that's so true, right? And we can't judge. Like I remember I had a friend that wanted to start a business, and he connected with me, and at the time I just kind of started out and I had about 1,000 followers or 700. And he's like, what would she know? She only has 700 followers. And we had, and he said that to me. He's like, I'm so sorry. And then he realized when he got to 700 followers, he was earning 6 figures. And it's like, it was because the people, like 700 people is a lot if they're aligned people. Right? So I think it's like, there's you know, obviously we need the numbers for the top of funnel, but we need the right numbers. So that's where things like paid advertising, like Facebook ads and things like that, can be really helpful for our business, because it brings in the masses, but like aligned masses, right?
Yeah, targeted.
Sometimes organic content can give you the masses that maybe aren't aligned. So it's so true. It's just a balance between like, and, you know, I've got clients that do, you know, have under 10,000 followers and have 6-figure plus, you know, they're, you know, they'll probably be 7 figures at some point, which is wild, right? Like, and this is the amazing thing about it. It's building community and actually like utilizing your content for the various parts of the funnel. You know, if you just create too much relatable, funny content, no one's going to buy. But if you create too much buy from me content, no one's going to buy. So you really do have to have that blend of content. How do you get that? You need a strategy. And this is where like, it's not a matter of just going like, I'm going to make a t-shirt and sell it. There needs to be a plan and a strategy, even for influencers. Some of them, probably are just lucky and they're, you know, holding on by the skin of their teeth. They're just like, okay, people are buying and I'm just like, and holding on. I think that's, you know, that happens a lot in Australia. That's why a lot of my clients in the past have been French, and they come to Australia because we make a lot of money in business, but we don't have a lot of good business structures and strategies. And they're always like, how does this Australian business work? Like they said, they're going to send me an invoice like a month ago. I really want to buy their product and they still haven't sent it to me. So it's quite funny. It's very the Australian relaxed mindset that we have. But yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting, this balance between and also if someone's liking the post or the content, what's that customer journey like? And obviously we can't track every one of our followers, but you do start to get an idea of who your aligned audience is. And I think the people that have bigger followings, they couldn't tell you who their warmest lead is.
That's so interesting. Yeah, the customer journey is so important and something, to think about. So more is not necessarily always better. We need to keep that in mind. Bigger is not always better. Talking about content marketing and how we can use that. So how can we look at our overall marketing strategy and know which type of content marketing suits us best?
Yeah, so I think this is where business goals are important. If you do not have your business goals, you can't create marketing goals, you can't create content marketing goals, right? So for example, you might have a goal of, I want to be a known speaker. I'm a service-based business. Say that's my goal, right? I would love that. I've built a service-based business. I've now gone into the education phase. I love teaching. I love workshops. I love it. Honestly, I love it so much. So I go, okay, if I want to be a paid speaker or a paid workshop facilitator, I want to be a paid kind of educator in my space. What does that look like from a marketing perspective? All right, so I need to use my voice more. I need to be seen as a thought leader. So then my goal might be to start a podcast. I mean, I have one. So my goal is to amplify that podcast, get it seen in front of more people. So that's how, you work out, okay, well, I need to start a podcast. And then also you've got things like, all right, I want to make X amount of money. Then you want to look at, where is my money coming from? Okay, networking. Okay, I've got, traffic coming from certain channels. A lot of my traffic comes from my blog and this is me personally. And I wasn't focusing on my blog. And sometimes I'm still guilty of it. So need to be called out by that. But organic search is my biggest traffic direct. And you know what? A lot of big brands are spending a lot of money on social and they're probably only getting about 9% of traffic from social media. This is where the numbers are so important, right? I've had clients in the past where they're like, oh my God, Instagram is just not converting like any other channel. I said, okay, let's look at the data. Let's look at the traffic to the website. It was coming from YouTube. And she hadn't posted in YouTube in months. And she's like, I love YouTube. I was like, okay, what can we do about it?
We've got a clear solution here.
Yeah. And not only website traffic, email subscribers. So that gave her a lot of relief because she didn't have to then be on this hamster wheel of Instagram. She could post, but she could also repurpose her YouTube videos into little reels and post them out, right? So a lot of us are using these social media channels for buying and converting, whereas my strategy is actually using social media channels to direct them somewhere else, which is generally a channel that I own: my podcast, my blog, my email list. And I made that decision quite a while ago. And yeah, I sell some things every now and then, but it's not a key strategy of mine. I'm more likely to sell in the DMs. Yeah. So this is where, and as a product-based business, that could be that's totally wrong. As a product, you should probably look more towards sales. People are more likely to convert through products on social media than they are a big service or even a digital product, right? A digital product, I mean, they say, there was an interesting, not stat, but finding that I heard recently, most of the buying decisions are getting made on websites and not social media. And I mean this by you've got the shop now, you've got things like that. People are buying through your website. So that's where, gurus will also say, you don't need a website to create a 6-figure business. No, you do. I'm sorry. Maybe when you're starting out, you don't, but you absolutely need a website. It's essential. If you want to be seen as a professional business owner as well, doesn't mean you have to invest loads of money, but you need these things set up eventually. But in terms of deciding okay, well, what channels do I do? What does that look like? I guess it depends. If you're starting out, I would go obviously where your audience is. And then also what you love. I'm not going to tell you to show up on TikTok if you hate TikTok just because it's a trending channel. Absolutely not, because you're going to hate it. Your content's going to be crap. Sorry, it will, because you hate it. And there'll be no energy. And we're energetic beings. It doesn't matter like what you believe in or who you are. Like, we pick up on energy. We know when someone's sad. We know when someone's happy. We know when someone loves what we do, and we know when someone hates it. And this doesn't matter if you are creating content now. If you're not enjoying a channel, like I knew a woman who hated Instagram. So what she did is she created a 9 grid, which is like the top 9 posts of like what you do are, and then she just left Instagram. But of course, she built up an audience on there, so it did serve her for a while. Now she's email marketing, podcasts, and blogs, and she loves it.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like you have to go towards what works for you, and then of course having a strategy. And with a strategy, you kind of work out the right channels for you. But a lot of it is making assumptions. Also looking at the numbers, like where's my audience? But if you are currently creating content, you got to look at the data. You got to look at who's coming to my website, where are they coming from, what posts perform well, what content do I like to create, what content does my audience resonate with. And there's these 2 elements I really focus on, is like strategy and data and measuring. Yeah. So that's why I created 2 workshops that I do. It's like one is content strategy and one is measurement. Because once you've got the strategy, you then need to measure it. But if you're already creating content, you need to measure before you start a strategy.
That makes sense. Oh, that's a really great answer. I feel like anyone listening to this can walk away with some concrete questions to ask themselves in order to start to define what their strategy might look like. And I like that you gave permission as well for people to not have to show up on a trending channel, because it's true. It just won't work. Like, people can tell when you don't, you can see it on TikToks when you're like, oh, this person's like totally forcing this. Or even I find that people can sense that energetically when you post something on TikTok that you also post on Reels. Like, I feel like you can tell, or if you're on Reels and you see like the little TikTok logo, like you're kind of like, oh, like you're just, I don't know, it's almost like a trust is broken. I would like to know, what are the best ways that we can use content specifically to market our products and services? So, for example, what I hear a lot of the time is like, when looking at a social strategy or a content strategy, we need to inspire, engage, inform, and educate. Like, is that a helpful framework to use, or is there a different way that you recommend? I'd love to get your take on it.
Yeah, so everyone has like a different way of explaining it. It's totally, that's what you want to do. But what you want to look at, and this is something that I've sort of dived into recently. I met an amazing marketer. Her name is Maddie Avery, and she has an agency called Birdcage Marketing. She's on social media. She's known for her savage marketing reviews.
I love
and
that.
She owns an agency in Townsville. No,
okay.
Mackay. Don't want to get that wrong. And how she explains it, and this has sort of helped, I guess, like define it in a more marketing way rather than the like inspire, do quotes. Like it's totally not that, right? And how I've always taught it for a long time is I've called it pillars. And essentially I've done it as more of a circle, but it's a funnel. Only reason why I do it in a circle is because I learned this from a content marketer that I did a class with in 2020. With content, unlike a funnel, like you funnel people down to the bottom and then that's when they buy. And there is this kind of arrow when you learn marketing, like then you want the people to come back through, right? But the guy explained it as a circle, because then you've got this element where it comes back around. So it's a cycle. So when someone's bought from you, especially if you're a product, service as well, like depends, like say, for example, with a retainer, you've got them. That's great. But sometimes retainers, they leave and they come back, like that is happening to me at the moment, which is amazing. It's beautiful, right? You end a cycle with someone because of like things change, but then they come back because things align again. And even like with the digital product, maybe they're not going to buy the same product, but maybe they're going to buy something else from you, right? So they're going to continue that cycle. So I did mine in the cycle, the circle, because content, how I find content helps you to continue to nurture people after the purchase. Facebook ads, once that person has been delivered that Facebook ad and they convert, it's unlikely they're going to receive that ad again. Whereas for content, as soon as someone starts following you and they might buy from you, or they join your email list, or they listen to your podcast, they have a chance to buy from you again. So if we look at I'll explain it in the funnel and then how I work it in like pillars, but you got top, middle, and bottom funnel content. different marketers, like there's different teachings. It's funny. My partner's from Colombia and he did a marketing degree in Colombia, and obviously in Spanish, the words are different, but instead of consideration, it was called something else in the English translation, but there's brand awareness, consideration, conversion. That's the funnel. You get the masses in and then people leave and you funnel people down to buy. So in each funnel, you want to have different types of content, because at top of funnel, you're not going to be creating buy from me content.
Yeah.
But at the bottom of funnel, you're not going to be creating like relatable trending audios or things like that. Or you're not going to be, I mean, sometimes it fits, right? But, there's
I get
different
what you mean. There's not like a cute TikTok that's going to sell someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's going to be a long form email.
It does happen, but it's rare, right? Like it does happen, but we don't work to that. We don't create like, there's this funny TikTok at the moment I'm loving. And it's like, you use the CapCut feature and it's like the guy doing like ballet dancing and then they've got like Still Dre and it's like the dun, 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 dun,
yeah.
And then like you put a photo behind it and it's like something relatable. Like mine for a client was like when the client approves the event and he's just like doing his dance and it's like super cute, right?
Yeah.
Unlikely that someone is going to convert off that, but it can happen, right? It's rare. So anyway, the top of funnel is that kind of fun, engaging, relatable, aspirational, motivational content. Now, the type of content will depend on the type of brand you're building and your audience. So like the way it can be explained and the way Maddie explains it really well is like, if your brand is like quite savage and like it's dark and, you market to, I don't know, like a community that's like likes dark humor, you're not going to create an inspirational quote.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't work like that. So, I think she created a TikTok the other day, like talking about a candle brand. And she's like, okay, well, who's your market? Are you marketing to people that like really nice aesthetic things? Or your marketing are they like funny, like got funny like names of the candles? Yeah. So is it to like a younger audience? So like it would depend on what type of content you would create. And the stuff that's resonating, like I've seen a lot of marketing agencies create like behind the scenes of marketing agency. And it's quite funny. It's quite humorous. It's like marketing girly type. And but that's their audience,
I've seen
that
this.
sort of aesthetic. Whereas like for me, like that's not the type of people that I work with. So I don't create that type of content. So like it's different. Like I target a different audience. So I create different types of content. Also, the top of funnel will be things that make your brand unique, but aren't necessarily directly related to what you do. I'm a traveler. I need people to know that I travel because if you hire me, I'm traveling. I'm on different time zones, all these things. So I create stuff about my travels on my page. So that's like your top of funnel where people like will start to get to know you, but then get to know what you stand for, those things. Then as you funnel people down, you want to create more of that educational stuff. But I kind of break it up into two types of education. The sort of like top of the middle funnel would be education around your industry. So like your thought leadership stuff, right? Like why you are known for what, like you're the expert in this field. So me potentially creating a video around my opinion on trending audio, my opinion on ChatGPT, like all these things that make me an expert because it's related to what I do. Then as you head to the bottom of that middle funnel, you then want to educate on your business, your brand, who you are, what you do, what you stand for, those kinds of things, like why people should work with you and trust you, and then obviously the bottom of the funnel is your conversion type content. So how I break up these 4 pillars, I call them, is fun and engage. Fun can be like, that relatable, but it also can be behind the scenes content, what it is like working with you, what you know, those sorts of things. And then engaging content is that relatable stuff. People that are just going to like it, share it, it's going to give you brand awareness essentially. And your brand is going to be seen and you might become like super known for it. Like the brand awareness campaign that was quite cool by Maybelline. I don't know if you saw it, but it looked like they had a mascara.
I did see that.
The famous,
in the
one
train.
of the famous buildings in London, in the train as well. That was actually all CGI.
Oh, wow.
So the campaign was actually about the CGI. So it was quite, and it was shared so many times. That's sort of like that, that was also shared because it's like super cool. Like why, like as if someone paid that amount of money, but no, it was CGI. So that's like your top of funnel. And then of course, education stuff. So I have the educational pillar, which is educate. And I sort of broke it into 2. And then I call it inform, but inform is to promote. So there's 4 types of like content that you could create. And I call them pillars, but yes, it's essentially using a marketing funnel. And then what you do is you decide, okay, what content channels do I have? And then where do these pillars sit? You might, like one post might be two. You might be educating and then selling. You might be sharing like an interesting story and you might sell off the back of that. So then you decide, okay, on social media on any given day, where am I using these pillars? Because that helps you know what you're going to post like on a Monday. It's not so much like motivational Monday, but it can be kind of used in that way. Like I know on a Monday, this is the type of content I create. I know on and this is for social media. And then when you're creating a blog or a podcast, you can have it. My podcast is purely educational, or my podcast is educational, but like I give a bit of like, people get to know me a little bit more.
Yeah.
On the podcast, even if it's like a 5-minute thing in the intro. That's when you get to decide. My email list, I break it up into like the different funnel pieces of content for any given week. So like week 1 of the month is educational. Week 2 of the month is like a personal story that's like, you know, kind of, but I sell more in my email list. Okay. Right. Like the informed pillar is in there at any given time. If not, it's linking to some kind of podcast. So that's when a strategy comes in, because you want to work out what days you're actually creating that type of content. And then when you're launching something, it might be a bit different, or you might do it a different way. Whereas, especially for product-based businesses, if you're launching at a given time for like Mother's Day, in the lead up, you might do all fun, engaging content. Yeah. Then as you're going into the launch, it's more educational content. And then you've got that window of heart open, buy from me. So it depends on how you use it. Because I don't have launches on social media, I just don't do that. I blend the pillars in it on any given week, and it sort of stays the same as we go. But one thing I wanted to mention before, I remember off the back of what we're talking about, when you mentioned like, you know, when you see the watermark on TikTok or from Instagram and vice versa. When people create content, they create content for a channel. I'm creating this TikTok. I'm creating this Instagram reel. I would challenge people to create content and then find the channel it goes to. Because when you start creating content for a specific channel, you niche yourself, like you narrow it down to that channel. Yeah. Create content and then publish it to the channel. So then you can repurpose the shit out of it. And then people aren't going to be like, oh, that was a TikTok. Yeah. You know, like it's, I mean, obviously, for example, like trending sounds and stuff that get used on TikTok, you could bring them to Instagram, things like that. But if you're creating content rather than creating content for a channel, you're going to get more from that piece of content.
Wow, that's such a good little tidbit of advice. But I think I'm going to have to go back and listen to everything you just said about the pillars, because it's so powerful and I need to write it down and
it's a lot.
Look at all my stuff and like where it can fit in. But I think it just makes it feel a little bit more digestible, because it's not all of a sudden that it's not, oh my God, I have to do all these things and post all this stuff. And oh my God, it's like, oh, okay, like how do I want to move my audience today? Do I want to engage and connect with them? Do I want them to buy from me? Do I want to, educate them more about this? Or do I want to present myself in this way? And so it's sort of changing our perspective on like, what do I have to do versus how do I want people around me to feel? And I feel like that just feels so much better as a business owner, as a content creator, than, all right, I better do X, Y, Z in order for me to be successful. Like that just feels like yuck, and everyone's over it. So I'm so grateful that you sort of put it in that way and explained it like that. And like I said, I will be listening back. I want to know how important it is to use storytelling in our content.
The most important. Coming from like, I love storytelling. I think, it is becoming a bit of a trendy buzzword, like storytelling. But it is something that will set you apart, because your stories are yours, and they don't have to be like your personal, like, oh, I went through this huge transformation. In fact, like the smallest stories and analogies are what connect with people. I've used analogies before around like the recipe, the baking. Yeah. There's so many analogies I've used, or scenarios that connect the dots with a real life story to a piece of content. And that's what people like, the penny drops when we hear that, right? Like, oh my God, yeah, that makes total sense. Like before I kind of didn't grasp that concept, but now I understand it because I can visualize it. Also, storytelling comes into play with our clients. Like, how have we helped them? What's the case studies? Like, what have we done? One of my clients, we did a case study post like on once a week for like 5-6 weeks. We're going to start doing it again. She got 3 one-on-one intensive 90-minute sessions, which like good money for her, right? From those case studies. Because people saw them and connected with that person's story and was like, oh my God. I had another client in the tech startup property space, and our case studies, you know, they were here. This is what they were thinking. They joined us. This is what we did for them. And this is where they're at now. More calls than any other post were booked. So like people connect, people want to see like how you help them from other people's perspectives, not just from your own.
Yeah.
And you know, obviously when we're starting out, that can be hard. But that's why, you know, going back on what you said before, Olivia, is like get your clients first. Like, so then you've got case studies, right? Like I used all my FIFA reviews before I had, you know, clients on social media or from connecting or whatever that looks like. But there's so much power in sharing your story, the stories of your clients, stories that are in the public domain that make sense to your brand, you know, and like analogies, hypothetical stories, like even from like a copywriting perspective. If you're doing like something where you want to sell to someone, rather than like, this is my online program, you get 5 live calls, you know, obviously you need to tell people what they get at some point, right? But why don't you share a story? Like imagine if, you know, like, or right now you might be feeling this, or, you know, put people in the dream scenario or share what they're actually currently going through, you know, like right now you must be looking at your phone because you need to post. It's post time, but you have no idea what to post. And then they're like, yeah, I have no idea. And then you take them on that journey to their outcome, right? And they don't necessarily have to be this, like, this actually happened. They can be these hypothetical stories where you're putting people in the shoes of someone that is like in the before and then the after. So I think like every post, and this is where it can be challenged, like every piece of content, should I say, you should be thinking about some kind of story that will help people connect. So whether it's a podcast, you know, sharing a story to help then explain what you want to explain in that podcast, whether it's a blog, you know, taking people through the journey. I mean, some blogs are just there to be purely educational. People just want their answers. And then with social media or with a video, taking people through that experience or sharing something that can be relatable. And the fact that everyone thinks you're not a good storyteller, you don't have a good story to share, is just a limiting belief, because we share stories every day. We've been storytelling since we've existed. You know, I went to Uluru in March, and the whole Indigenous culture is about storytelling. Like we've literally been telling stories, and that's how we remember them from years. Like, you know, that tour guide could tell us that story, and I remember that story because like it was, you know, their history. But she told her story, and when she did because we did like a tour group when we were in the bus, and she was like doing a pop quiz, I remembered the answers because of the story.
Wow. Yeah.
So you're 22 times more likely to remember a story than stats. So true story.
There you go. Yeah, I love that. And as you were talking, I was thinking about people that I feel really connected to. And I was like, why is my brain's ticking over while you're speaking? Like, why is storytelling so evocative? And I think it speaks to that connection, which is what we're all here to do. When we hear a story, we connect with someone's being vulnerable with us. We get to have that genuine connection. And I thought of Brene Brown because I love her content. I love her books. I read her books, and she's got, you know, she's a shame researcher. So it can be quite dry, intense content or information that she's putting out. But the way that she tells it through a story, it brings me in so emotionally, and I feel like I know her and I love her. And it's like, you know, it just speaks to what it is that we need to do and how we need to infuse storytelling into our content, because we can be that for other people as well. Just because we know our own stories doesn't mean it's not interesting for others. So I feel inspired to give storytelling a bit of a go, because I'm always like, oh, I did a lot of like creative writing as a kid, and now I feel like I'm so like businessy. It's sort of gone out the window. But you can also say in copywriting, storytelling works, storytelling sells. So if you're struggling to sort of go over the line, just have a look at the numbers, do some split tests, and I'm sure you'd be surprised at the difference.
100%.
Let's switch it up. I want to talk about you for a bit. What are you currently passionate about, and what's lighting you up, whether it's in life or in business?
Oh, this is a good question. At the moment, what's lighting me up is travel. I'm traveling full time with my partner. We're in Morocco at the moment, and we go home to Australia every 6 months. So we'll be back in Australia in September. We booked our flight recently. That was such a relief. Oh my God, it was so expensive. Yeah, so we were just like absolutely loving exploring different cultures, different countries, meeting new people. Like that's what like brings a lot of my inspiration for my content, right? Like being in the space of someone else or another country. So that's like from a personal perspective. What's lighting me up from a business perspective is marketing campaigns. I'm doing this really amazing course, learning about like campaigns and how they work for small business owners and like being really creative. Like think Emily in Paris, but like more, tangible.
Yeah.
And like the incredible results that she seems to get.
I know.
All of her big following.
She's magical.
Yeah. Right. So there's no algorithms in her world, or, masses of people.
Yeah.
I'm loving learning about how, for my clients and myself, I can be more creative in how we market certain products, certain offerings, and really like go out with a bang and like launch it in a way that's, quite creative. So that's sort of like what's lighting me up. I'm getting like so many ideas like just before I go to bed. And that's me. It's like, it's just this beautiful balance, I think, is what I've been able to bring. And for anyone that's listening that's quit their 9 to 5 to work a 9 to 5 or plus, it's totally normal. I mean, at the start of business, it's, you're not alone, but being able to have things like content strategies, marketing strategies, business foundations, all of those things, the systems you set up, the automations, has allowed me to travel. I wouldn't be able to do it without all of that. I can't confidently take on any more clients when I don't know what's like how I'm going to manage it. And that was a huge goal of mine. I worked a lot in 2020, 2021, even last year. And I was reflecting on it the other day with my partner. I was like, oh my God, I'm working like hardly anything, but it's because I've been able to work smarter with my time. Of course, I outsource. Like I'm not going to pretend I do it all because I absolutely don't have an amazing team. One of them is my partner. So I'm very lucky to have him and can literally have something done very quickly as soon as can you help me with this?
Yeah.
So I think like being able to have that balance has been taken work. Like it takes I didn't just one day like have balance in my business. Like it's taken a lot of work, but I think that's the amazing transformation that happens when the penny drops and you work out what you need to do to make things work for you. So that's what's happening in my world.
Yeah. And like that moment where you're like, oh my God, it's all paid off. Like I'm doing exactly what I wanted to be doing. And I worked and I set up the processes and the automations and I did that. I was saying to Mariah before we started chatting, I know automations, I know funnels. And when I went to research for the questions and looked into our world, I was like, oh my God, this is really, really impressive because I could see how everything was connected. There's like multiple different ways you can connect with her stuff. And so from an operational and marketing automation perspective, I was blown away. And so you can tell when someone's put in work and when you know how long it takes, you can go, okay, like she's taken the time to do this. So I'm so glad that it's paying off for you and sort of, enabling you to live the life that but I'm sure visualizing whilst putting in all those hours.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, no, thank you. It's like, sometimes you feel like you're never going to get there. And one day it does happen. But you also have to set the intention that that's what I'm going to do. In 2021, there was no way I was going to be able to travel like this until I know I need to make change. And that's where I invested in systems and processes and good coaching and mentoring to get it set up because it takes a village to build a business. My mentor says, and it's so true. You need all the people around you to make it work. But you have to, put in the work to begin with. I don't think we just magically business starts working from nowhere.
Yeah, for sure. It's a uphill battle. And then you have that tipping point. Like it feels like all of a sudden everything's working, but you know that you've been putting in time and time and time behind the scenes. So I love that. Is there anything special that you're working on or in your business at the moment or that you're selling that people can get access to?
Yeah, so I do. So we mentioned the pillars in this interview. I do like a monthly workshop, which I go over my 7 steps to content strategy using the content acronym. So that if anyone's listening at any time, we'll be able to access it. It's live one at the moment. I'm sort of deciding whether I make it like, do like a live Q&A off the back of it or something rather than like people listen to the workshop. So that's what I love to facilitate. And off that, my baby is Content Bootcamp, which is our program, which helps you go from, scratch to strategy by the end of, rather than, hiring someone to do it, you do it and you learn along the process, and you learn about your business as you go, and you end up with the strategy at the end. So that's like what we focus on. But I will be doing some cool marketing campaigns in the future. So everyone follow and stay tuned for that. And I'm really excited. One of them will feature the Sahara Desert. So stay tuned for that.
That's exciting. Why does that remind me? I'm a big Travis Scott fan, and like his whole thing about the pyramids of Giza and launching it there, that just flashed into my mind.
Yeah.
About an interesting.
We won't have that budget, but and we couldn't bring our drone to Morocco, which is they're illegal here.
Really?
That was stressful. Lucky we knew someone in France that we could drop it off to. Otherwise, we didn't know what we were going to do. We're going to do some cool drone shots, but no drone, just GoPro and phone. Yeah. So, but not the kind of Travis Scott budget, but I try my best.
That's okay. All the links will be in the show notes as well, so you can stay tuned with Mariah. Last question is, what is your crystal vision for the future? So without revealing too much, what is it that you're working towards now, so that in a few years we'll be able to listen back and say, she manifested it all?
Yeah, actually my partner and I are working on we have another brand called a Travelers Co. working with travel content creators to help them create content. And we had this like epiphany in France that it's bigger than what we think it is. And we really want to connect travel content creators that want to make money online with travel brands that aren't necessarily creating the content we deserve. They're creating more of the aesthetic, not the like user-generated, raw, authentic content. So we want to create something that will connect them together, and we want to work with more travel brands anyway. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, platform. Oh my God, that's going to be life-changing.
Working on our vision and mission and values. We just said we're posting on our TikTok, our travels, but on our Instagram when we post tips and stuff, we've just like, we're on pause, stay tuned. So
very exciting. Thank you for sharing that. Is there anything that I didn't ask, anything you want to get off your chest, or any downloads coming through?
No, I think you asked amazing questions. I think it really just does come down to that overwhelm that people get when it comes to content marketing. And I just want everyone to know that like, you don't have to do what everyone else is doing. You don't have to show up here, there, and everywhere. There's smarter ways to do it so you can get more out of the content that you create. And with an actual strategy, it'll change your life. And anyone that doesn't have a marketing strategy or a content marketing strategy, that is your next point of call. If you are struggling with social media, if you're struggling, you've always wanted to start a podcast, you don't have the time. Like I show up on a lot of channels. Yes, I have a team, all of that, but I wouldn't have a team if I didn't have the strategy, because I wouldn't have the clients to be able to pay them. So you will be able to outsource it in the future. It's not oh my God, that's not possible for me. It's totally possible for you. You just have to start with a plan.
Oh, I love that. And you can find the plan and more all in Mariah's content. So go and check it out, get started. I feel so inspired about having a look at my own content marketing strategy. So thank you so much for being so generous with your time and with your knowledge and sharing with us. And I will be stalking you after this episode and consuming as much content as possible. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks so much, Olivia, for having me. It's been really fun.